Ed, Representative Bennett said there were more than 100 verses in the Quran that encourage violence toward non-believers. Is that right?
Well, he pointed, Linda, to one specific verse in particular that he said directly relates to these ISIS beheadings. But Sultani says those verses are outdated and taken out of context. We'll look into the Quran coming up at 6.
Ed Doney reporting. This dispute over Islam's true message isn't a new one, but it's a discussion that's in the spotlight again. OU Director of Religious Studies, Dr. Charles Kimball, has written several books, including When Religion Becomes Lethal. He argues that when a religion becomes violent and destructive, you can be sure it has become corrupted. Dr. Kimball's joining us live via Skype from Norman, and we do appreciate you taking your time. Now, being an ordained Baptist minister and specializing in Islamic studies, this is certainly an area of your expertise. Is there a simple answer to the question, does Islam condone the killing of Christians?
Well, I think the simple answer is no, it does not. There are numerous passages in the Quran that speak very highly and positively of what is often called the people of the book, referring to Jews and Christians. There are passages that promise paradise for Jews and Christians if they do what is right and follow, the dictates of their religion. There are passages that talk about the diversity of religion as part of God's plan. Jesus is mentioned 93 times by name in the Quran, so very positive views, but there are some verses, the so-called sword verses, that have been referred to, that have a particular context. Most Muslims would agree, not the extremists, but most Muslims would agree, have a particular context that when you've been attacked and you're being fought and attacked and even killed, you have a right to defend yourself and fight back. Those kind of verses have been taken by the Osama bin Ladens and some of the extremists in groups like ISIS or ISIL and abused and used as justification for their violent extremism.
Well, clearly with the recent beheadings of journalists, we're seeing the extremes of radical Islam. But is this violence based in religion or politics, in your opinion?
Well, it's both in a way. I think it's largely political. It's political maneuvering, but it's playing to and pulling at religious heartstrings and get some response in some quarters, obviously. The number of people that we could identify, if we could identify accurately, who are in the camp of violent extremists is in the thousands. Nobody knows for sure how many people are in that camp, but compared to the 1.5, 1.7 billion Muslims in the world, this is a very tiny fraction on the edge. Of course, the danger is it doesn't take many people to wreak havoc and get a lot of attention. So this tiny fraction within Islam and claiming inspiration from Islam get a lot of attention, a lot of headlines.
Let's talk about today's topic then. When a state lawmaker writes on his Facebook page to, quote, be wary of Muslims, it makes the news. But many Oklahomans already agree with him, and voters passed a law banning Sharia law in our court system. Is there a danger, in your opinion, to holding on to that belief?
Of course there is. This kind of generic stereotyping, treating Islam as though it's monolithic and all Muslims are the same, is simply ridiculous. It has no bearing in reality. I have dozens and dozens of Muslim friends in Oklahoma City, Norman, Stillwater, Tulsa, etc. They are doctors, they're cardiologists, oncologists, home builders, architects, accountants, college professors, and so forth. I don't know a single Muslim in Oklahoma who believes or wants to see Sharia law implemented as somehow the law of the land. This is just it's a fear-mongering tactic that have a lot of people upset without knowing. In fact, I've talked to several hundred people over the last several years since that resolution was adopted in the state by a 70% margin. I've yet to meet a person who could even define, apart from Muslims themselves, what Sharia law is and what it is exactly they're afraid of. They don't even know, they can't even identify it, but they've been convinced by preachers or pundits that somehow it's coming to get us. And this kind of generic stereotyping is very dangerous. Islam is no more monolithic than is Christianity. If you're talking about Christianity, you're talking about Quakers or Russian Orthodox or snake-handling Pentecostals in Appalachia. I mean, Christianity covers a wide swath. So do Muslims. There are Muslims of all types all over the world, the vast majority of whom are human beings like the rest of us trying to live good lives and prepare for a better future for their children.
Dr. Kimball, I'm sure that there's a lot that we can all learn about one another's faith, and your books have done much to help that. For more information on Dr. Kimball's books, we have a link at kfor.com/links. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Linda.
Now, first weather from